sometimes I'm like, wow, I just went one day at a time, right? Like through the military, you plan ahead and like to think you have some control over things, but really you show up and you try to be proactive, but you have to just take what you're giving and move one day at a time and keep keep your stress down, right? You want to look like a confident leader. When the proverbial or real bullets start flying and you're in charge, you want your subordinates to be able to look at you with trust and with a faith that you have their best interests in mind and you have the ability to make sound and logical decisions. And then you have to live with those decisions. If you lose lives, it's going to sit on your conscience forever. And fortunately, we saved lives that day, got to go to bed and wake up and do it again the next day.
Hey, guys, it is Allison. I am the host of your show, Allison Answers Mission Awake. I cannot wait to sit down with you today and go over how we are going to crush the mediocrity in your life that has been plaguing our society since the beginning of time. I cannot wait to have a real deal conversation that includes intelligence, fun, excitement, and real actionable steps to make a real difference in the life that you're living now and making it into something you can be damn proud of and excited to live. Sit down, put on your damn seatbelt, and get ready for the ride of your life. Hey, guys, how are you today? I have a guest today on the show that I'm super interested in interviewing. The primary reason is his name is Josh Halu, and he's a visionary behind a company called the Psychedelic Exchange, PsycheX. And it's on a mission to open doors to create opportunities and spread knowledge in the psychedelic community. PsycheX focuses on assisting individuals grappling with PTSD and depression, offering valuable resources for those intrigued by the numerous benefits of alternative medicine. The thing for me with Josh, and what I want to say to you, is that the accolades could go on and on of what this gentleman has endured, what he has accomplished, his level of education, his ability to do so many incredible things. What I want to, one of the main reasons I wanted Josh to be on the show is because of his decorated military career, and just the way he describes his career is incredible to me. So I'm going to read a few things about him. Josh is the visionary behind that company that I just described. And he's an Army veteran and a mental health advocate and the founder and CEO of PsycheX. And the thing about him, I'm hoping that he'll be able to share his experience, strength, and hope for overcoming trauma and finding healing through psychedelics. Psychedelics for me has always been like well, I'll be honest with you, I run mental health facilities and I have all these counseling centers, and I've been a therapist for over 30 years, and I'm a drug and alcohol counselor, and I've always been, it's been controversial for me. I have not necessarily agreed with it, but now I'm open and I'm willing to hear and learn and grow and understand, because I have seen a lot of value come from this type of treatment. I guess my hesitation was just based in not wanting it to cause any kind of damage, which, as I have looked into this gentleman, Josh, I have seen that he has such a heart for healing and help and the connection of human beings. I just am really happy to have a conversation with him. Josh says, in one of his bios, he says, true success for me isn't measured in transient metrics, but in the lasting impact and informative journeys we facilitate. He has such a strong foundation in sales and leadership, and he's like in this pioneering company, and he's looking for the alignment of these elements to revolutionize mental health support and psychedelic therapies. He's a graduate of West Point, and now I'm just going to list on, it's too much to list about this incredible man, but he served 7 years in the Army. And what I thought was incredible about him is that he embraces, his own words, is that he embraced a servant leadership philosophy, prioritizing the needs and growth of those I served. Transitioning into the business world, he became at the helm of PsycheX. That principle still remains for him. I have so many questions for him about that. So I'm going to quickly rush through his decorated, unbelievable resume. U.S. Army, 7 years, company commander, 2 years. He led a 200-person company managing staff and employing significant capital resources to deliver helicopter maintenance training and professional development to meet Army aviation needs of organizations worldwide. Military and intelligence advanced officers training he did for 10 months. He graduated from military intelligence advanced officer training, and he developed an analytical, multidisciplinary staff management expertise. Blah, it's hard to even understand. And he obtained top secret, sensitive, compartmented information security clearance. He was an operations officer managing active flight operations, leading cross-functional staff to direct and coordinate over 50 helicopters and flight crews in deployed combat operations. As you can imagine, that's an intense thing to know and do and succeed at. He was an aviation planning manager, led cross-functional team operating 24/7 to manage operations for 700-person Army organization, an aviation organization. He planned, prepared, and supervised primary and contingency operations for complex aviation operations. He was a platoon leader managing a 100-person organization, and he was in the U.S. Army Ranger School as well. So there is so many things that I'm looking forward to speaking to Josh about. And the primary thing, just to prepare you to sit back and listen to this man of incredible intelligence. I'm hearing him speak on different podcasts, and his use of language and his insight and his compassion is just very compelling. But what really hits me is that, I'm a widow of a military person, and I understand to a degree, as I can, the philosophy and what it was like for my late husband to be in the military environment for such a long period of time. And to hear Josh describe his transition, and also while he was in the Army to be a servant leader, that is very compelling to me. And to hear how he is able to be an incredible leader in the civilian world when he had, I'm imagining, a different type of leadership experience in the military world. So without any further ado, put on your seatbelts. It should be a very, very moving and heartfelt conversation. Hey, guys, how are you today? It is Allison from Allison Answers and Lager Counseling Services. As I mentioned before, I have my new fast friend, Josh, on, the man with all the incredible everythings, that his ongoing list of accomplishments and growth is incredible. So I had said to the audience how honored I am and how interested I am in the conversation that we're going to have, and how I look forward to learning and just listening to you. So welcome. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you so much, Allison. I'm very grateful to be here.
Awesome. So I just want to start with just learning more about you, because I always believe, obviously, as a therapist, I always believe that our history and things that are stored in our body, all those memories and everything, have so much to do with who we are today. And I am certain, since you have this career in the military, that you have overcome a lot. So I would love to just understand who you are and how you got here today.
Hmm.
You
Where
could
to
start with the day
begin?
you were born.
Let's
I'm
do
just
that.
kidding.
Because interestingly, you bring up like what we store in our body, right? The book, The Body Keeps the Score, and it's
Yes, yeah,
really fascinating
I
for me
love
to
it.
think about what's stored in my body.
Yeah,
And for me, it starts with actually birth. To your
yeah,
point, I was
yeah.
born in Jerusalem, Israel, actually, to a Palestinian Arab father and a Jewish mother,
Wow.
which is very unheard of, to be honest. My mom was kind of a rebel, an American, Jewish woman who went to Israel on a whim when she was, I think, 19 years old, and went to university there and met my father, who was a Christian Arab, and they developed a romance and got married, and they actually had to get married outside of Israel. I think they had to go to Cyprus or something like that because it was forbidden for them to marry. And while they were in Israel, then they had my sister, who's 2 years older than me. And then when I was about 2 years old and my mom was pregnant with my younger brother, we moved to Colorado to start life in the US. My father was the youngest of seven siblings, so it was kind of unheard of to leave Israel. And also he had married he's the baby of the family, married a Jewish woman, which is crazy. And they moved to the US, and then we lived there. I grew up in Denver. When I was 4 years old, I lost my father to suicide. And I think that probably, I mean, I've thought a lot about it over the years, but I think it probably had to do with being at like finding challenge and fitting into new culture and feeling that stress and feeling that pressure. And he had converted to Judaism to marry my mom. And I think there was just a lot of challenges with him assimilating to a new life. Plus I think there were challenges between him and my mother. That my very first memory in life that I can recall was waking up on the morning of my father's suicide and going to his funeral. And from that point forward, my childhood was, I know there were happy moments, but in my mind it was a very challenging childhood with my mom becoming diagnosed with bipolar disorder after my father's death, and my siblings having depression, and I was sent in and out of therapy. My mom remarried when I was 6 to my stepfather, who's still I consider my father to this day. But for the next 10, 12 years of my life, I was in and out of therapy. My parents actually sent me away to live with other families a couple times. And then eventually, when I was 14 years old, my parents sent me to a military boarding school in New Mexico. So I moved to a new state. All of a sudden, it was halfway through my freshman year of high school. I think I was getting into just a lot of fights. Had a lot of anger and resentment toward my family. I felt abandonment toward my father. And actually, my mom told me years later that when she was pregnant, when she became pregnant with me, she really didn't want me. She had didn't want to be married to my father. She realized she had made a mistake, and she had already had my sister, and she was like, "Oh, like another kid with this man is gonna really like lock me into this." And so she's told me since then that I came into the world probably feeling abandonment and resentment, because as soon as she found out about me, she didn't want me, and that was probably the energy she was
Yeah.
transmitting into her
Right.
into my growing body inside of her. And then when I got sent to military school, I just turned 14. I was halfway through my freshman year of high school, and all of a sudden I was ripped out of my one life and put into a new life. And I was getting my head shaved and yelled at and doing push-ups and shining my shoes, and all of a sudden learning a different way of life, learning how to march and discipline. And I rebelled heavily for that first semester, and I almost got kicked out of school. But my parents told me that if I get kicked out, I'm not welcome back home either. So I was kind of at at a place of, oh, what do I do? I hate this, but I don't know, but I can't go home. My parents aren't going to have me. And then I went home for the summer and returned for my sophomore year of high school. And when I got back, it was my very first day of class in my sophomore year of high school. And the school that I went to was called the New Mexico Military Institute. It's a great school, college prep school, and it sends a lot of students to service academies. So the West Point Military Academy, the Naval Academy, Air Force Academy, Coast Guard Academy. And on my first day of my sophomore year of high school, I was in class, and it was a junior ROTC class that was mandatory. And one of the officers from my school came in and he asked our class if anybody was interested in going to a service academy to get up and come over to his office. And I saw some of my friends get up and go, and I was like, well, I don't know what this is about, but let me go check this out. And so I walked into the office, and he told us all that if we were interested in going to a service academy, we have to start applying right now, essentially, like 3 years in advance, and look at our academics and look at our extracurricular activities and look at our sports and our leadership, and make sure we're starting to build our a very strong candidate profile for applications. And I had gotten D's and F's my my freshman year of high school. So he's like, I don't think you're going to get in unless like you change everything immediately.
Right.
And so from that point forward, I got almost straight A's the rest of high school. It was like I finally found a purpose that, I wanted to become independent from my parents. I didn't want to have to rely on them anymore because I felt so much abandonment, and I really wanted to take my life into my own hands. And so I committed myself to, I said, all right, I'm going to go to West Point. I don't know why West Point was in my head, but I wanted to go there. And I committed myself to it. I lettered in, three sports, and I almost got straight A's. I picked my GPA up from like a 1.8 to a 3.7 by the end, and National Honor Society and leadership and all that other stuff. And I found discipline and structure to be the kind of to create the freedom for me to thrive within a system. And I graduated high school at 17, went to West Point, started basic training 6 weeks later, went through 4 years at West Point, graduated near the top of my class as an aviation officer, and went to flight school, became a Black Hawk helicopter pilot, and went to Army Ranger school, became an Army Ranger, and then went to my first assignment as a platoon leader, and I took over a platoon of like almost 200 people right away. Just like, okay, now
How
it's
old
the
were
real
you?
deal.
How old were
I
you
was
then?
23 at the time.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I was 23 at the time, and
Oh,
the
wow.
and we started training up and to get ready to go deploy to Afghanistan. And I went to Afghanistan the next year when I was 24 and spent 9 months in war as a helicopter pilot, mostly as an aviation operations officer, so managing a lot of all the aviation operations for my organization. So we had about 30 or 40 different helicopters, and I would, send out all the pilots on their missions and manage all the ongoing missions. And, if there was a helicopter that got shot down, like manage the rescue operations, or just go fly missions myself. When I was on the flight schedule, I flew about two days a week. So that was, a very intensive experience. Getting used to rocket attacks hitting you, launching around you and getting shot at, and seeing helicopters go down, and like really doing war when I was 24, and then turned 25 while I was over there. So that was a really intense experience.
I don't want you to lose your track. I'm sure you know, but like right here,
Yeah.
what you're saying, I just wanted to just zoom in on that because, like a snapshot, when I think about a 23-year-old young man and as a leader, and then you have all of this, you have your underbelly stuff. But now, there's one thing I want to comment is that you said I had purpose. And I believe that all of us at all times need a meaningful pursuit. And I think that there's something about when you get that, there's like life, there's a life-giving thing that happens in there. But so I just loved that you said that. Like you had a vision, a point to go, But what you just said about the leading and managing the operations of these life-threatening situations, I cannot even imagine, I feel stressed over, you know, having the operations of, you know, civilian counseling centers here, right? But now, and there's life-threatening things here, but not, I'm not under fire, right? So, but I just want to understand. I'm sure when you look back, you're surprised by it. But when you were in it, do you remember the stress? Do you remember the heavy responsibility? Or were you a machine?
I wish I was a machine. I don't
Yeah.
know if anybody is a machine. If they are, I don't know if I really want to serve under them, or I wouldn't want to be
Yeah.
that leader.
Oh, let
I,
me rephrase that because I want to operationally define what I mean by a machine. I think like
yeah,
sometimes, like I remember my husband in the military, like we're talking about like not being in the moment, in the action or whatever, not to be, emotion could destroy a mission. Like, like you have to be like almost like a machine. I don't mean like, just like left foot, right foot, do the next thing, like, right? So that's kind of
right.
what I meant.
Yeah, yeah. No, yeah, I
Hmm.
think I understand what you mean.
Yeah.
I like all the time felt the stress and the responsibility
Yeah.
of lives and the responsibility of leadership. And right, you wish you could just operate and shut your brain off and just know what to do. But you are always thinking. So one day, it was right after I turned 25. I was just promoted to captain, and I was just moved from the night shift to the day shift. So I worked like these 12 or 14-hour rotations of going to our operations center, which you can imagine is like a big open building with a bunch of people operating radios and the intelligence officer, giving you the enemy reports, and the weather person telling you what the weather is like, so we knew whether the helicopters could fly or not, and all the different people, like 20 people plus the commander in a upstairs with a window looking down on everything, and I'm managing all the operations, and I just turned 25. And because I was promoted to a captain and I'd already kind of had good experience managing the nighttime operations, which were typically fewer and less dynamic than the daytime operations. I had got that experience. I moved to the day shift, and it was literally my first day on the day shift. And it was probably 3 hours into it, maybe 10 o'clock in the morning. And things are going really well. I'm like, okay, I'm glad everything's going well. My heart, I was at a high level of, concentration because I wanted to do a good job and knew that this was my first time in a higher stress shift. And it was maybe 10 o'clock in the morning, and I got a call on the radio. I heard it come in, and it said fallen angel, which means that a helicopter's gone down, which is, I mean, to hear
Yeah.
that ever is
Yeah.
is devastating. Earlier in my deployment, I'd been on a flight and saw a helicopter go down with some people I knew in it, and they lost their lives, and it was like one of the most tragic things I've ever experienced. But now I'm in the driver's seat of running the operation response, or what are we going to do? All of a sudden, all these things pop into your head.
Yeah.
Like, we start calling you always fly with two helicopters. So I was on the radio with, the other helicopter, getting an assessment of the situation. I knew that helicopter was operating in a heavily, enemy dense territory. And I had to start, contacting Air Force and different helicopters that were in the area and provide air support and figure out who was on the ground, not even knowing. I had friends actually in the helicopter that went down, not knowing if they were alive. And having generals call me and having to give updates while I'm,
Yeah.
giving orders to everybody around me to figure out how we're going to rescue these soldiers and potentially the helicopter. And I had a bunch of people, the commander for the individuals in the helicopter coming into the office, like yelling at me, wanting to get updates and learn what's going on with the situation. And I was like, everybody, if you're not part of this effing mission, get out. You're not welcome in here. And I had people like stand by the doors, not allow anybody in, and I had to really do a real life rescue mission for these helicopters, for this helicopter and these pilots. And it turned out the pilots did survive. They were able to walk out of the helicopter, which was just destroyed. And then, there was enemy all around. So we had to launch ground forces to come and get them. And, that was like an 8-hour intense situation of my life. And one day in one shift there, that was like, all I wanted to do was like, all you want to do is like run out and be like, I just
Yeah.
want to stop time, or I wish this wouldn't happen to me, or I wish I could just, take 5 minutes and breathe. But
Yes.
you have to push all that down and be in the moment and
Yeah.
be a leader and know that your decisions have serious ramifications for human lives. And I tell myself I've been trained. I know, like, I don't know how to solve this problem specifically, but I know that I have the tools and the capacity to solve this problem to the best of my ability and get in the game and see it all the way through. Right. That's all you can do. So I wish it was like, you just know what you're doing and you just operate, but it's, you just in your head. If I think, at least for me, I'm just constantly calculating, is this the right
Mhm.
decision? All right, once I make this decision, now I'm committed to this path forward, and now I have to operate this way, and I have to let everybody know what's going on around me and make sure that everybody's doing their jobs the right way and it's all coming together. And then take on the responsibility to communicate to generals and other leadership within Afghanistan what was going on and how we were going to recover the helicopter, recover the pilots. And yeah,
And you
I was
did, right?
25 years old. We did. We had to decide whether to blow up the helicopter in place because there's secret information in it
Yes.
and maps and data. We decided to actually we could recover the helicopter, and so we had
Really?
to send
Wow.
another helicopter to put a net around it and pick it up and sling load it back to our base at nighttime, under night vision goggles, while other helicopters and ground units were doing suppressive fire to keep the enemy at bay while we're doing this, so we didn't get another helicopter crash. So, it reminds me that sometimes I'm like, wow, I just went one day at a time, right? Like through the military, you plan ahead, and I like to think you have some control over things, but really you show up and you try to be proactive, but you have to just take what you're giving and move one day at a time and keep your stress down, right? You want to look like a confident leader. You want to, you when the proverbial or real bullets start flying and you're in charge, you want your subordinates to be able to look at you with trust
Yeah.
and with a faith that you have their best interests in mind, and you have the ability to make sound and logical decisions. And then you have to live with those decisions because if you lose lives, it's going to sit on your conscience forever. And fortunately, we saved those lives that day, and I got to go to bed and wake up and do it again the next day.
Josh, I just want to say that, first of all, I didn't say it when I started. I don't know why, but thank you so much. Like, I really mean it for your service. Like, and just the
Yeah.
description, the way you describe that is, it's incredible. And a lot of people who listen on here, um, not all, a lot are, mental health clients and a lot of just, but a lot of them are people in personal development and entrepreneurs, right? I'm an entrepreneur, right? I have belonged to Arate with Ed Milet and Andy Frisella, and I know how much they just honor the military. But what I want to say is that we go on these calls, for leadership, and we're like, oh, it's so hard to be an entrepreneur, and right? And when you're describing that situation, I'm humbled. I'm talking slowly because I'm taking it in because the truth is that a lot of times I know I don't feel that what you're describing, but it's just like microcosm of that sort of, oh my God, everything's coming at me. I don't know what to do, but I know what I'm trained in. But it's nothing like that, obviously. And I'm not comparing it. But what I'm saying is like the unbelievable, what has to be inside of you to be that? And I think we forget about like our greatness inside, like what we're capable of. And you've demonstrated it just in that story. Is an incredible story. I remember my husband, I would say, what is it like when you're under fire? And he'd be like, not in like you can see on TV. It's just like it's coming from everywhere. You don't know where to go. Like it's like right. And I'm going to just a little teeny thing just to, because I want to ask you about this. So, like, I used to work in a locked adolescent psych unit. And one of the things that when they were going to strap someone, or someone was really violent and you were like,
Hmm.
whatever. But what I was going to say is that we had a strategy, a tactical strategy. So no matter what the situation was, we didn't really necessarily, I mean, it felt scary, but really scary, but you knew exactly, like you just got one arm, and the other person got another arm and a leg. And everybody was assigned to one thing on that big, huge person that was wanted to kill
Hmm.
you. So, I mean, it's nothing like the military, obviously, but I just wonder when you have that training in place, even though you're in that scary place, when you know your role and you stay in it. I mean, obviously you have to, but do you think the training, because I heard you talking to yourself, I know what to do. Like, I mean, I'm trained in this. Is that a big component in being in the confidence? Is it somewhat related to that?
Hmm. Well, I really appreciate how you gave context to that question, Allison. I think that, and there's no comparison. Like one journey is different than another journey in life, and this has been my journey. And anybody that helps or is faced with stressful situations and has to figure out how to work through
Oh, but
it
there's
is
nothing like that one you just described. I'm
that
sorry. It's just crazy what you just said. Okay. I mean,
I
your
think that
story.
I think that the persever the you develop a perseverance and a grit that gets you through adversity.
Yeah.
The more I don't know, the more times you get these repetitions in, uh, it's to me, there's this concept of like the wax on, wax off, where right, you got to
Yeah.
do the fundamentals over and over again, right? You got to go to the range and shoot thousands of times, thousands of rounds before you just have a lot of confidence and know where the bullet goes because you know exactly how to do your breathing, you know exactly how to squeeze the trigger the right way, and how to, all of those kinds of things that allow you to when it's time to be on the playing field, you're capable of performing. But
Yeah.
there's so much gray area, and it's how you pull these different pieces together to inform your decision making in the moment and your ability to persevere. And I think that the unique part of the military is there's no saying no, there's no quitting, there's no turning around and running, right? There's you're faced with this challenging situation and you just have to do it. The only way out of the storm is straight through it.
Yes.
And so I think that the training certainly helps. So I went to Ranger School. I signed up to go. It's very hard to get in, and they really don't like to send pilots because they've already paid for your flight school and it was expensive, and they don't want you to get injured at something like Ranger School. And it's more of a requirement for an infantry officer than it is an aviation officer. But I really wanted to attend because I had a lot of role models, leaders that I really looked up to and respected that had all gone to Ranger School, and I knew it was like the toughest and one of the hardest, best training programs in the entire military. And I went right after flight school. And what they do to get you prepared for real life situations at Ranger School is you're there for a little over 2 months, and it's multiple phases. You're in the mountains. Sometimes you're in like the swamps of Florida at other times, but they push you so far past the point of breaking
Mm.
that just to start school, just to get into the actual training phase, you have to have gone through, there's like obstacle courses and ruck marches and physical fitness stuff and land navigation and just the bare level skills and physical fitness to get you into, all right, now it's time to start training. And throughout all of Ranger School, they sleep deprive you, they feed you almost nothing, and then they put you in the most stressful positions, and it'd be like a like simulated combat where you're going through the woods, and somebody's in charge and you have to get to a certain point to launch an attack on an enemy, and you have to actually lead that like you're a unit in Vietnam going through the jungles, and
Right.
you have an objective and that's what you're trying to accomplish. What they do at Ranger School is they don't let you sleep ever. So I'm
Um,
talking like maybe 30 minutes a night if you're
wow.
lucky, like while you're
Really?
sleeping between shifts on pulling guard. They feed you eat like maybe one or two meals maximum a day, but you're doing it during your mission, right? It's like real life stuff. So while everybody's say in a patrol base and everybody's looking out, providing security, during the nighttime, operations, one or two people are coming off the line at a time to clean their weapon. And then, once all the weapons are clean, then the next thing is, personal hygiene time. And then, just quick brush your teeth or something like that. And the next time you come off the line, it's to eat. And you get maybe like 3 minutes to eat. And you
Wow.
have like a frozen MRE meal ready to eat that you're
Yeah.
just like scarfing down your throat as fast as you can. And it's like when it's done, it's done. And you back on the line and you're back at it. And you're doing that for 5 days at a time, 10 days at a time until and then while you're in these different missions, you're running these missions, you don't know who's going to be the leader. And that's the most important thing, that you have to pass Ranger School, is these leadership roles. So maybe you're going through a mission and you have a raid, and there's a big attack and you have the battle, and then afterward, all of a sudden the Ranger instructor will say, "All right, pause. All right, now Ranger Halu, right? Me. You're the squad leader and you're the platoon leader, and that guy's the radio operator. All right, mission's back on." And all of a sudden, right, like you're like, okay, wow, I wasn't the leader before, I'm the leader now. and I better have been paying attention to what's going on, because if I'm just drowsy and sleepy because I'm not the one in charge, I just have to follow the leader and do what I'm supposed to be doing. And I'm not ready to step up because the leader, maybe the leader was killed and I'm the next person up and I don't know what's going on, then the rest of my soldiers are going to suffer, and maybe be killed because of my inability to pay attention and stay sharp. And then as soon as you come out of each phase of Ranger School, you do an intense peer evaluation. So before you're even allowed to go shower or anything else, after you've been sweaty and disgusting in the field for over a week, you have to sit together and everybody gets an evaluation sheet and you have to evaluate every other person that's part of your squad or your platoon, and you rank everybody, and then you have to answer three questions about each individual. And this is one of the most important aspects of it, which is you answer about each and every individual. Do I trust this person? Would I go to war with this person? And would I share a foxhole with this person? Like,
Wow.
do I really trust that this person is capable of of being in it with me in battle, in war, and that I can face this way, and I'm trusting if he's facing that way, and we've got each other's back, and I'm able to rely on this individual in the toughest of circumstances. And if you say no to anybody about that, like that person will get kicked out of Ranger School if it's justified. If two people, people peer low enough in rank order, like multiple people say, oh, he's 6 out of 10, that person will get kicked out, right? So it really reinforces this idea that you're on a team. Sometimes you're a leader. Sometimes you have to be a great follower, and you have to be prepared to be a leader. You have to know that it doesn't matter how tired or hungry you are when the mission needs to be accomplished. Like it's not like, oh, I didn't get lunch today. Like it doesn't matter, it just doesn't matter.
Okay.
You are you are in a you're equipped, you're trained, you're in a body, you're able-bodied, and you have lives that depend on you, and you have your own life that depends on you, and it's time to just operate. So
Did you ever
Ranger School
tell
is really
anybody
excellent
no?
for teach.
Did you ever say no to anybody? Was it a
Like
secret?
on the Pure Vows.
Yeah.
Oh, I did actually. Yeah. As it gets as it gets closer to the end, so there's three distinct phases. And as you get to the last phases, people really start to, I mean, you are really probably lost 30 pounds. You're
Wow.
carrying 100 pounds at a time on your back with machine guns and everything, and you're, camouflaged and disgusting, and you're like sleeping out in the dirt every night. And people really start to get broken down. And during the last phase, maybe the last week or so, there were a few people in my squad or my platoon that felt that they had already had their leadership, opportunity and passed it, and just kind of stopped really assisting everybody else. So, usually for me, I always I did more than I needed to do. Right? We talked about this paddle on my wall, but
Yeah.
it's a Ranger creed, and on the back there's these six letters spelling Ranger. It
Yeah.
spells out Ranger, and
Yeah.
we've said this like I can say this in my sleep, but I've said this 1,000 times.
Tell us.
But all
I mean, is it
right,
like
so
principle?
yeah, so the R is, it says, recognizing that I volunteered as a ranger, fully knowing the hazards of my chosen profession, I will always endeavor to uphold the prestige, honor, and high esprit de corps of the ranger.
Hmm.
And then it says, the A is acknowledging the fact that a ranger is a more elite soldier who arrives at the cutting edge of battle by land, sea, or air. I accept the fact that as a ranger, my country expects me to move further, faster, and fight harder than any other soldier.
Love
And
that.
then the N, this is the one I was intending to get to, but never shall I fail my comrades. I will always keep myself mentally alert, physically strong, and morally straight, and I will shoulder more than my share of the task, whatever it may be, 100% and then some.
I love that.
So I would always think about that. Like, all right, if there's somebody else in the leadership role, I might be so tired, but somebody needs to carry the extra ammunition. So let me get that, right? But toward the end, when you're so tired, it's so hard to put one foot in front of the other. I had on my hat on my head, it said one more step. I had it written under the bill.
Oh,
So
good.
every time I could look up and tell myself, all right, I've always got one more step in me.
Yeah.
I can always do one more
Yes.
step.
Yes.
So when you get to the end and people aren't pulling their weight, and you're like, well, we've all been through this together. I know how tired they are. I know how tired I am. I could just say yes and pass these people and say, all right, I understand. I can be empathetic that this is it. But but the reality is, the to earn the Ranger tab, and to graduate and really represent what that stands for, you want to make sure that you are being very real. Because if I just pass somebody that didn't pull their weight at the end of Ranger School, I don't have confidence that when they're in war and they have real soldiers looking up to them with families at home and everything else, that they're not going to, start to shirk their responsibilities and not be there as, the best leader that they can for their soldiers. So it's just, there's no vindictiveness, no vendetta. It's the reality of, are
Yeah.
you the best of the best, and can you operate when you are in the most stressful of situations? But it's that perseverance. It's that voice in your head that just tells you one more step, like, I can do
Yes.
it. People are
Yes.
counting on me. Like, get out of your own way. Just move, right? Operate.
Hey, guys, how are you? Isn't that amazing? This story that we're hearing on this show is great. I want to just give a shameless plug of my book. I would really want people to have a good look at my book and to understand what it really is. I used to be ashamed to plug my book, and then I realized, how is that right? To keep the information, the 30 years of experience that I have, the 8 years of education, the trauma that I grew out of and learned how to manage, and how to manage emotion, all the training I've had in neuroscience and quantum physics. How can I keep that from the public? So it's not, I used to think it was like something I should, be humble about, but being humble is silly when you're keeping things away from people that they need. So what I want to tell you about my book, and I hope that you do get it, because I think it will really help you. I've gotten a lot of tremendous feedback about my book, and that it's really, really of great value to a lot of people. And what it is, it's an interactive read, and there's inside of it, there's journal entries. So as I'm teaching and going through the book and teaching you how to create the life you want by understanding how you're wired, how your thoughts, feelings, how your words, how thoughts are things, and the neuroscience behind it, and how we are programmed from the time we're 0 to 7 years old to live a life of mediocrity, or a life of poor design, because of meaning that we attached to events when we were children that just became our programming. What I want to tell you is that there is a way out, and it's a simple way. It's very simple. I believe in the simplicity and the grace in healing, and that it doesn't have to be a big work. So I would love it if you'd get my book. It's a best-selling book on Amazon, and it's my first. And I encourage you to get it. It's called The Wake Up Call, an interactive read for building the life you want. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Thanks so much for being on the show, and let's get back to it. What do you think just being able to do that has done for you? I mean, it's like mental toughness, that they talk about. It's just like showed you what you're capable of.
Two big things I think that come to mind. One is that I'll never do anything harder in my life than going through Ranger School, truly. So I know that no matter what, I doesn't matter how cold I am, or how hungry I am, like how hard my day's been. There's nothing that's going to be as hard as Ranger School in my entire life, and it gives me a level of confidence to know that I can persevere through, incredible challenges. I think the other thing is true perseverance. Really is. So I say affirmations every day and gratitudes, and one gratitude that is I think most meaningful to me is, I say I'm grateful for every step of my journey, especially the difficult ones,
Yes.
which strengthen my perseverance and character, making me who I am today.
Yes. Yes. It's so funny because just out in the civilian world here, like we try to mimic, and it's great. It's fantastic. But I find it interesting just for me, like because like I did 75 hard. If you heard about it, you know what it is, right? I'm embarrassed to even tell you what it is because of what you've
But
done, but
no,
it's
don't be.
75.
There's no comparison. There's no
Well, yeah.
comparison.
I mean, it's such a little, but to me, it was such a big thing. But the principle, so 75 Hard it was a program developed by Andy Frisella. It's really incredible. And it really, really helps a lot of people here in the civilian world. So basically, it's just two 45-minute workouts. Don't laugh. One's inside, one's outside. And then there's like 5 critical tasks. You have to read 10 pages of a personal development book every single day, take a progress picture, drink a gallon of water, and then it progresses into other things as the program moves on. Like you have to visualize, you have to take a cold shower, like all these different things. But the point is 75 days. And if you miss one day, you have to go all the way back to the beginning. So no matter what, there's no quitting. Burn the ships, you got to go, right?
Burn the
So,
ships.
right. So now it's a very, to you, it's nothing, right? But I remember writing this whole thing out at the end of it and saying the one thing I got that was more than anything, there was a kind of two, but one was that hard things aren't hard because you had to do it outside. Like I remember working out at like 12 o'clock at night in the middle of a storm, like tree limbs are falling down. It was a winter, but I was like, there's no freaking way I'm not working out outside today because I'm not going to miss after whatever it was, 40 days or something. I'm just doing it.
Mhm.
So, but my point is that, I mean, it's such a obviously gross, it's not even a comparison, but I just relate and I understand to my micro degree how something even small in comparison to what you do, I can't imagine how, I don't know. I wonder if it makes you more free. I remember CJ, that's my late husband, he was not afraid of anything because he experienced such, like there's like nothing out here is that bad, like that scary, except towards the end in his mind. His mind,
Mm.
you know,
That can be the
fear
scariest
gone
place.
wild. Hmm?
Yeah, that can be one of the scariest places.
It is. I think it
Truly.
actually is the only scary place, isn't it? Now that I think
That's
about it,
that's where I fear, right? The only thing
is
to fear is fear
there,
itself,
isn't
right?
that everything?
But that truly is. I mean, and I think this is a little bit off topic, but I think that one, the depth of your, I, I think the depth of your challenging experiences or your emotional experiences can kind of determine the height of your highs and your bliss.
Yeah,
Like it's right, like it's hard to like I don't know if you could really experience like joy, true joy of accomplishment, of
yeah,
love, of whatever, if you haven't experienced like despair and heartbreak and know what the polarity is
yeah,
between those two things. I think that's so, and that's the same thing with perseverance, right? Like the more that you, the more that like there's that saying, character develops in darkness, or characters
yeah,
like a photograph develops in darkness. But it the more that you experience these really challenging things, the more that you are able to do challenging things.
yeah,
But you atrophy that skill atrophies, right? You can't just say, I've done hard things, so now my life can be easy. To
yeah.
your point, like that would be a very, I would be incredibly proud of myself to go through that 75-day challenge. Like
Hmm.
I just did, and I still try to challenge myself
Yes.
regularly because if I don't, I know it atrophies. I mean, I'm not even David Goggins talks about this
Yeah.
quite a bit too, that
Hmm.
he doesn't want to do the 100, 200-mile runs. It's so hard. It's hard for him and it's painful, but he's like, I know that it's so easy to slide back
Yeah.
into a place of non-discipline and a place
Hmm.
of right. Like if you miss one of those days, if you miss a you're doing a 75-day streak and you miss one of those days, it's so easy to miss a second day and to miss
Yep.
a third day, right?
Hmm.
And so like this in January, I started doing this actually last year, and this was my second year doing it. I did a dry January, which I took a break from a lot of things actually, alcohol and THC and
Hmm.
I mean I had quite a laundry list of things that I was like, all right, I'm gonna remove bunch of things from my life. I had a strict diet. I had gotten a cold plunge for my house, so told myself every single morning at 5 a.m. I'm getting right out of bed every single day,
Hmm.
Monday through Sunday. I'm getting right out of bed at 5 a.m., going right downstairs, jumping in my cold plunge for 3 to 5 minutes, and then starting my day.
Yes.
And it was like doing that. It was so easy to tell myself, oh, it's Sunday. Might as well, it's 5 o'clock goes off and you have to override your mind in the moment is always
Yes.
going to want to do the lazier, path of least
Yes.
resistance. And it's telling yourself, no, like I've made this commitment to myself, the higher level thinking Josh,
Mhm.
who's creating the strategy for Josh's life, not just the in the moment operating person. And and I made that commitment, and I'm going to get out of bed every single morning and get in that cold plunge. As much as I hate it, I'm going to love it on the other side. And I know there's a reason to it, and there's a reason to continuously challenging yourself and putting yourself into those situations that you can't, if you just let yourself kind of slide into, a lackadaisical way of life, if you don't continuously push yourself into a position to persevere, then I think you lose that atrophies that ability to persevere. So I
Yeah.
think that 75-day challenge, I'm going to look into it. I might try it
75
out.
hard. Andy Frisella.
Yeah,
He's
I'll check
amazing.
them
I was
out.
just listening.
Yeah.
We're in a group called Arate. It's which means excellence, and it's a whole bunch of us entrepreneurs, and it's all about all of that. Like just, always growing, that, and I really believe, I'm sure you believe it too. You just said it, is that, as human beings, if we're not growing, I mean, we've heard it everywhere, we're dying. But it becomes cliche when you hear that. But I really feel that that's a big part of depression when there isn't,
Mm.
I think we're made for expansion. And if we're not doing that here on Earth, that's the big thing. This podcast, I don't even know if you know, it's called Mission Awake, but it's crushing mediocrity. It's like,
Yeah, I
but
saw
that
that.
is,
I
yeah,
love that.
because it's so hurtful to people. I don't like controlling people. No, it's not that I don't like them. It's just I don't want to be a controlling person. But I do believe that leading people to their greatness requires us insisting that they do things. And I don't, but then I get confused between insisting and controlling. And I know, like, the interest, that's what I'm just fascinated, because the military, there is not a choice. I mean, we would laugh, my husband and I, he'd be like, you just get it the fuck done. You should be just like, and I love that. I mean, I feel the same way. Just, yeah, I even got him a thing that said that. Like, just get it the fuck done. It's just like, I don't
Yeah.
understand. Like, what is the problem? Get to the end of the thing.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating. So, because to me, I feel every promise we keep to ourselves creates confidence. I tell my children, like, responsible acts produce self-esteem. But with my employees, I'm going to be real with you. Like, I feel like I don't want to say, hey, you have to do that. Like, it's your job responsibility. And like they just keep not doing it.
Yeah, I know. It was something that I really had to learn when I got out of the military,
Yes.
actually, was to lead through influence,
Yes.
much more than leading through, do as I say. And
Yes.
I had a wide range of leaders in the military some inspired me, some were incredibly toxic, and I learned just as much from both
Yes.
types of leaders, when what to do, when what to not do. Right.
Yes.
But I would see that there, like, there's this little silly kind of game you could play where, you put your hand on your rank and somebody else puts their hand on their rank, and then you pull it down. You're like, oh, okay, I win, right? Because I'm higher ranking, so you have to do what I say.
Oh,
It's like
that's
it's like a still.
funny.
If you're
That's
the if
funny.
you're the one that's leading only because you have a higher rank on your chest, like then you're not there to serve your people. You're there maybe for yourself or a career reason or whatever. If you just have to bark orders and say,
Yeah.
if you don't do this, right, if you're
Yes.
leading with a stick instead of a carrot,
Oh,
then then
yes.
you're then you're not a leader, in my opinion. You're a manager. You're responsible
Mhm.
to get something done, and however you
Yeah.
need to do it, you're just going to get it done. But if you live like a leader and you live to influence, you embody what you're trying to say, you're role modeling the right behavior, and you're setting an example for others to follow,
Hmm.
then you're creating the conditions for others to thrive.
Yes.
And that's how I believe it should be. I don't want to just tell somebody you have to do this. Why? Because you have to,
No.
because I told you to do it. Like, I think it's like, I always try to think, how do I appeal to an individual? What do they need to hear to have motivation inside of them to do it? And how can I, right? Like, how you learn this in relationship, marriage counseling, whatever, but
Mhm.
how can I, or even training a puppy, right? How do I use positive reinforcement
Yes.
versus negative reinforcement? Like, slap somebody's hand when they do something wrong
Yeah.
versus encourage them every time they do something
Hmm.
right. So that, maybe it's your employees are supposed to do X, Y, and Z, and maybe 3 out of 5 of them are doing it on a regular basis. But you start to really, congratulate those, like sometimes you think to yourself, and this is just like the bare minimum requirements to do something. Like we shouldn't be celebrating just meeting the standard. We should celebrate exceeding the standard, right? But the more that you recognize people for doing the things that you want them to be doing, that they're supposed to be doing, and then you create, incentives or praise in public, or, you pull somebody to the side and you're like, hey, I notice you've really been doing this like, regularly and consistently. And I really appreciate it. It's, what we're supposed to do anyway. But I see that you're taking it seriously, and you're setting a good example for, that your peers, right? It's like simple things like that that really burrows into their head when somebody feels appreciated, and you're giving them purpose, right? They're
Yes.
part of something bigger than themselves. They
Hmm.
have group identity.
Hmm.
Without that, without purpose, without identity,
Yes.
you can't, you get lost in life and
Yeah.
things. You don't have a why, right? Like I told you when I decided to go to West Point, like without that North Star why, it's
Mm.
like, well, I don't really like this class, so I'm not going to give it my attention and get
Right.
a good grade.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I loved everything that you said because I agree with every word of it. So often, just even, with parents, in counseling or as a parent myself, one thing I always say, like, we don't raise puppets. We don't raise puppets. We raise people. And also, like this is about children, I'm not talking about employees. It's same, I mean, same kind of concept, but that with children, it's like their parents will be demanding behaviors. We talked about this off camera, like that even for mental health, we're trying to like tell people to change behaviors instead of going to the heart of the person, right? And individually locating what needs to be healed or, transformed. And I always tell parents that no matter what a kid is doing, no matter what it is, and I was thinking about it when you were talking about being sent away, and I actually felt tears in my eyes because I say it 1,000 times, is that no matter what your child is doing that you don't like, whatever it is, that the number one first thing to stop is to reconnect with your child. That only tells you that you need to reconnect because that's where influence is. And I was also thinking,
Yep.
as you're saying this, that, okay, that basically the process of really leading and influencing people is a slower process, and our, at large we're more feeling in a rush or sense of urgency. So anything that's urgency is fear. So maybe slowing down individuals, it's like that's the sweet spot, right? It's the same as one day at a time, head, heart, feet, all in the same spot. Breathing, you're in front of me. How do I influence you? Like, I don't know. I'm actually just recapping because like I go to Dr.
Yeah.
Joe Dispenza and he like makes us
Yeah.
do
Hello,
that.
Joe.
Did you ever do him? Like
Yep.
he
Do a
teaches
lot
you
of
and then
breath
he
work.
makes you recap it. So I'm like, I gotta get that other 1,300, like receptors there, whatever.
Totally. No,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. It is a slower process, right?
Guys, thank you so much for listening to the show. I just want to say to you that we are all together a part of the Mission Awake, a mission that's going to stop the mediocrity that's plaguing all of us. So if you got something here today, I ask that you would be a part of this mission and you'd share it with whoever you can. Take a screenshot of the show and share it on your Instagram. If you are looking for me, you can find me on social media platform Instagram, Allison Answers, or Lager Counseling Services. And give us a review and subscribe if you could to YouTube, Allison Answers. That's where you're going to get a lot of content. I drop stuff every day, goofy stuff, all different kinds of stuff. 5-minute videos that just get you moving in your day. Have a great week. See you next time.